What are we doing here today?
It's our third Particulate and Decontamination Seminar, becoming very, very popular now. And you can see by having over 100 people now in the room here today, we're educating on everything that's where we are with the latest with cancer, how it's affecting everybody, what are the solutions around these, as well as other areas like mental health, women in the fire service, how it affects genders differently. So it's to create discussion, it's to stimulate some conversation within the room and educate as well on and sharing of experience and our own skills and experiences within these areas, I guess.
It's a worryingly emotive topic. I mean, there's exciting Gucci things to talk about in the sector. Oh, next fire engine. Oh, next piece of kit. You know, can have a bit more expensive fire kit, something like that.
Yeah.
This is one of the very few ones that crosses that barrier, and we see that evidence with Martin's family here today. Yeah. It's one of those things that breaks the barrier that also crosses into your home life as well, isn't it?
Oh.
And it's something that, a bit like the memories, but not in a good way, stays with you long after the job as well.
It does, and like you say, with you know, and there's many examples, but like with Martin Green and it really brings it home to you. It really does, and we've noticed that over the last couple of years of doing these. When you listen to people like Robbie Burns and John Lord speak, there's people with tears in their eyes, and there's no escaping. You know what people are facing here, hugely emotive, and it does affect not just the fire service and those individuals, but the wider family. As I've always said, my son's a firefighter. He's a young lad, and I want him to have a bright future in front of him. And you start listening to what's happening, and it's worrying.
So we're listening to what's happening. We're seeing the lived experiences of some of the speakers that we have today, but also we're reading what's happening. And for those that require a bit more depth than just the story, you see the work of Anna Steck, of Emily Watkins.
Yeah.
Emily we've had on the podcast before. We kind of cornered this topic from almost every angle now. It's like painting it into a corner. What more evidence could we possibly require? What more evidence, emotion, data, legislation? Why are we not tipping that balance? Because a lot of the people here today have come of their own volition through some out of passion, some out of desperation, some out of sorrow and mourning. Why are we struggling to tip the balance at the higher levels of some organisations?
For my own personal experiences, I'm always out and about, always in front of customers. It could be a number of reasons where it could just be lack of resource, which means there's lack of focus, which is not their fault, obviously. There could just be almost like a commercial element. And even to this day, I do have individuals that say, well, I'm not told to do it yet. I'm not forced to do it, and because of budgets or what have you. But this isn't just about selling PPE or anything like that. Like you said, it's about behavioural things as well. It doesn't cost money. It's just education, time. Shower within the hour, wash before you go to the loo, things like that.
Wash before you go to the loo. I wrote that down when John spoke about penile cancer, and it's
obvious
such a weird one.
It's weird, but obvious when you think about it. Of course. If your hands were filthy, you wouldn't pick up some food and eat it. You'd wash your hands first, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So, that's why going back to what these seminars are about, it isn't just about this is the solution to this in terms of product. It's about if everyone understands how it affects everybody across the board, education and things, then people will start to take it more seriously. And it's a great question, and I still struggle to find the definitive answer. There is a bit of belligerence, if I'm honest with you, where it's just a case of, well, I've been a firefighter for 30 years and I'm okay.
There's almost an admittance of not just guilt to other people, but more so for yourself, especially for those in senior positions who have had a career of operational work. There's almost an element to, if I acknowledge this is the case, what have I done, to myself, perhaps to my family, perhaps to my loved ones? If you acknowledge it, then you kind of have to start looking closer at yourself. So sometimes I speak about it as in, they say science progresses one funeral at a time. And with many empires that we have in the fire and rescue service, often procedures, behaviours, appetite and interest sometimes you do have to create that progression of retirement. My concern with that is those that are retiring, and John referenced it in his opening talk, it's too late for me. But he gave it a good example in there, but it might be too late to the damage you've done to yourself, but you're going home and picking up your grandchildren or picking up, hugging your spouse, whatever it might be. He mentioned a point about apathy with younger generation as well, which is you have a younger son in the fire service now. Everything's important. Everything's a priority.
Yeah.
And you'll know from business, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. How do we capture the attention of people who really need to hear this, who are still, sounds hard, but are most likely to be savable? The least amount of damage is done to them now.
Yeah, I actually think it's listening to firefighters like Robbie Burns, because maybe it's just because, like I say, I'm just his dad. But 2 years ago, when John and Robbie was doing their because it's so impassioned, isn't it? Because it has affected them personally. They're fighting cancer, so it doesn't get any more real than that from the same profession. And he actually said to me, "Makes you think, doesn't it, Dad?" And I laughed because I've been rambling him down this road for like 3 or 4 years. But that meant it worked. If it hit home, then it's done its job. And if it hit home to him, then it should hit home to everyone else. And I think listening to how because I can talk about it all day long and people think, well, I'm just here to sell a product or something. But I am personally passionate about I love what we do. And if it takes, especially like an orator like Robbie, when he talks about, and he's very open about his experiences, he gets right into the weeds of it. And the room goes silent. You're listening to him, and they say I think you've got to be almost inhuman for that not to affect you on some level. And so if that doesn't prompt you to say, right, I'm going to wash my hands more. I'm going to not put my gloves on my helmet. And for me as well, there's solutions out there that don't actually involve retraining or anything. There's some simple solutions, like a flash hood. It's just swap that one for that one. It's the same breathability. But this has now got a nanoflex layer that's going to protect 99% of the particulates. So there's no retrain. We're not inventing the wheel here. So there are some quick, easy wins. And I think you're never going to, personally, I feel that you're going to get rid of it all. But it's like these incremental improvements. If we improve on the behavioural stuff, and we can improve on some technology perhaps, or things that keep the cab clean or whatever it might be, then we're all making steps in the right direction. And they're easy to do.
That's what I see about this raft or buffet, if you will, of ways that we are looking at the challenge in the seminar today, whether it be from an operational side, whether it be from an equipment and personal protective side, whether it be from a behavioural side. It's that analogy that that rising tide raises all the ships, because we all start looking for those marginal gains ourselves.
Yeah,
and there is all something. There's this thing about sphere of influence, sphere of control. Like I could sit on my fire station and bang the drum and go, oh God, I've not got the best flash hood that I want. I've not got the good base layer protection that I want. Okay, sphere of influence, I can support through my union. I could put a paper in. I could go to the working group. But sphere of control, A is my actions. B, as a watch manager, it might be the actions of my crew, the disciplines, what we are about as a team. And these things, I think sometimes we can be guilty in life in general of catastrophizing about things that are outside of our sphere of control. Oh, the government's done this. Oh, the index has done that. Okay, what am I going to do about that? Versus, what's my own personal bank account looking like? What's the state of my home? What's my relationship like with my child? And when you make it personal, I would say it's how the Bible was written. It's written through stories. We learn through stories. There's a great book called Switch where they talk about the elephant and the rider. Right. And the rider is the logical mind. So I can say to you, 7,000 firefighters this, Robbie Burns, John saying, catch it in stage 1, 96% go back to work. Catch it in stage 4, only 22% go back to work. And you go, okay, that's data. The elephant is the emotion. So you can pull with data all you like as the rider, but when you hear it and it hits you emotionally, because I suppose, the women in the fire service say you've got to see it to be it. When you can see yourself in someone else's story, Robbie says, ABC stations, jobs, John talking about going on multiple calls during the night. You can see yourself in that. Yeah. And that starts to embody a story that when you tilt your head and squint your eyes, you go, well, that's me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this person has paying the price that I, through happenstance and luck in the universe and the flip of a coin, there but for the grace of go I.
And that's true. And I think, like you say, the data's there, the science, it's overwhelming. It's like, I don't think you can dispute it.
No.
I don't think it can be argued, right? Although
that's where I think we're slowly creeping towards corporate negligence because you're like, I'm not sure how else I can point at this.
The World Health Organization recognise it. The HSE have recognised it. You know, you can't get away from it. You know,
and I don't know why you'd want to. I mean, we can get into conspiratorial elements there, but we're not going to go there. But it's like,
but I don't see it right. I think people can view it like, oh, did we make mistakes past? No, it's learning, right?
I'm not saying you've done it wrong. I'm saying there's a problem. There's a problem. We
grew up with asbestos.
Have a problem. Yeah.
Nobody ever thought it was a problem. Then so somebody realised it was and got the evidence. And said, right, no more asbestos, right? You know, because it's a real thing. You know, and of course, a lot of people got asbestosis. You know, a lot of people didn't. Lucky them. You know, I'm of the age, sadly, where I probably played in the sandpit full of it. You know, but
if
we didn't know what we didn't know.
We'd have done better.
Yeah, exactly. It's the old story, but it's about we're learning all the time, and we have to embrace that and go, okay, but what can we do to like you say, make those marginal gains? And it's all there through whether it's the emotional side of it, the science and data. It's all there. You know, and I think we are going in the right direction. There's no doubt about it. You know, but there's still work to be done. And like you say, I've always made no bones about it. The seminars that we're doing, it never started off that way. It was just a get together to get them like a meeting of the minds almost, and it's escalated. And today, phenomenal. You know,
seems to have grown arms and legs, and people are standing at the doorways trying to poke their head.
There are, and it's overwhelming. And I am really delighted for PGI and what we're doing. It's nerve-wracking as well, if I'm honest. You know, because you want to make.
Because then you start to feel a weight of responsibility when someone says, "So and so wanted to get to this one. Like, what day is it going to be next year?" And you're like,
"I know.
What are we going to do next year?"
Do you know what's great about it? They're all the right people. They're all the right people, the right interest in contaminants. You know, which is what you don't get maybe at a trade show or
yes,
something.
It's just look at the draw. You spend 40 grand and go, oh God, there was one person that even knew what it was about then.
Yeah. And if so do I look at it, it's like the effect of there's 100 people there. They seem very engaged and they're enjoying it as well. And then they go back and they talk to their colleagues and everything else. And it's just getting the word. I mean, the last seminar, we literally had people sitting down with you, having a beer in the night and say, I didn't know about this. I did not know about that. It's been great. And I get a right buzz from that. I really was like, it's been worthwhile.
I want us to get back in there to listen to Danny, but I'd be remiss if we didn't, because total transparency, you know, these things are all lots of fun, and I'm very privileged to get invited to lots of fun things, but I always make a point of acknowledging what got me there.
Yeah.
So obviously yourself, say with PGI, we know Joe here. I just want to do a quick 20-second acknowledgement to some of the people that have enabled today. I know you feel a bit cringe about that because that's not what we're here for, but for my own benefit, just pacify me. Who are we speaking to today, and who do we have to thank?
Okay, so first of all, it's PGI, PGI Inc. Jim Sontag, our owner, who's we've been doing this since the 1940s.
Jim's funny. I like Jim.
He's a funny guy. He's
not too corporate, so serious. I really like him.
I love him to bits, and he's the most passionate, intelligent guy you'll ever come across.
He has a childlike element to him. I thought he'd have lost that by now, but he seems to be very gregarious. And and he looks after me. Yeah. So and he lets me do these things, and that's fabulous. So we're the main host, but we've done it with the support of Joe Taylor at DWIPE. Who's MBE, OB, whatever she is?
MBE for services with Reach and Rescue and what she's been doing with DWIPE, and it all comes under the same umbrella with the contaminants, decom. And then she has the same passion. She's been doing this a lot longer than me. She was working with John back in the day.
It's crazy.
I feel I've almost just jumped on the bandwagon like 3 years ago, but we've all come together because we as a force with John and Joe, and then of course we got Joe Leonard, QFSM, who's looking after a company called G2SR alongside with Joe Taylor as well, who are developing and supplying the new ionisation, in-cab clean room. Again, so it all comes under the same umbrella of what we're trying to do: the healthier firefighter, the healthier workforces and work environment as well. So it all goes hand in hand. So it all makes sense, I think.
It's like a little team of Avengers we've got together. Well, look, thank you for today, brother. I really enjoyed it. And
thanks for your time, Pete. Yeah, no, good.
Cheers,
thank you, brother.